Is being recorded.
Welcome to the March the 4th OpenJ9 community call. We will start things off as we usually do. We don't have a lightning talk scheduled this week. I have a couple of people to follow up with on getting something scheduled, but we do have a list here of potential things to talk about. So we should be getting some of these started to kick things off. If there's other ideas, feel free to add them into this list. If you have people in mind or you want to give them yourself, that would be great. But getting this list populated and filled in would be great. Then we'll jump and take a look at the recent user raised issues. There's been an issue that's come in around our behavior with the SIG abort signal differs from that of hotspot. So BabNeat's been looking into that. There's a question around man pages for tools that we don't include. An issue with a seg fault, I believe, on inside a container. And so I believe we've received debug data to take a look into that. A feature request to have a default Java core file name. I believe there's a pull request for already. And that's all the ones that have come up in the last week. Is there any of these that people want to dig deeper into or call out, need some attention? Okay. Then we'll jump back to the agenda. There was an issue with the adopt builds for OpenJ9 not being up to date on the adopt website.
Yeah, so that's been fixed. At least it was last time I looked. The new website changes to which moved to using the version 3 adopt API was unfortunately using data. Some duff data was always being returned as the latest. So we had to delete that from the database.
Okay. Well, it definitely appears to be fixed. So thank you to everyone who's involved in hunting that down.
So note that there's no builds for Xlinux, but I expect we're going to talk about that in the context of Java 14.
Sorry, Pete. I missed that when I was looking. There's no builds for Xlinux?
That's right. I think because it doesn't compile because of the assembler instructions.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, why don't we get to that when we get to the Java 14 piece? Okay. I will remove this then, given that that issue has been addressed. Docker Hub and download stats. Andrew, have you had a chance to update this?
Yes. So the latest as of today. I think interesting thing to note, if you look at the blue line, which is the hotspot downloads, is interesting squiggle at the end, or the flattening off of the download rate. I was discussing this with Dominica. I don't know if this is just a seasonal slowdown or something, but it's a bit inconsistent with the previous slope.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Because Dominica pointed it out to me actually on the monthly download stats, and that February, the total download from Adopt was roughly half the January download.
Wasn't there some issue that I think Tim mentioned about it counting JSON files as well, the metadata files?
I'm not sure it's from these That was that is why the version 3 dashboard is 10 million downloads different than the old dashboard. That's what.
There's an open issue. There's an open issue to fix that. The other theory, obviously, is comparing January to February, where January there was a release that people would go and get, but nothing's happening in February. But I don't know. We should look back at the other release dates and see if that's holds true. As well.
That was my rough thought as well. I was wondering why November and December were fairly good download rates. So I can't see a bump for October, as it were. But anyway, I think we'll just let it trend along and see how it goes.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. All right, so now we're into the releases section, and we may as well start right away with the Java 14 release. I'm going to pull up the milestone plan. We can take a look at the things that still have to be resolved in this milestone, and that list is longer than we'd like. Pete, you mentioned the compilation issue. Is that issue tracked in this milestone, or is it at adopt?
It's the second last one from the bottom, the one that says blocker.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so it looks like we've been looking at this. Stuart, do you have an update on whether you've been able to use the newer version?
Not yet. I've been dealing with quite a lot of other things today, so I haven't been able to look at it. I'll attempt to do it try again with 2.28. Do you know what version you're using at OpenJ9? Because whatever it is, it wasn't installed via the playbooks, I would imagine, if you got one that works, unless it is the DevToolset 2 one, DevToolset 7.
I don't know what that number is off the top of my head.
You're better off asking Joe or Violetta.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So as a note, this is one of those times where having vast differences in the underlying infrastructure it's going to slow down a lot of triage, right? I don't think the OpenJ9 machines were configured using a common set of playbooks.
Agreed. It continues to be one of the goals that we need to get to, is that common set of playbooks that we're used across all infrastructure. I'm just going to ping Adam and Joe here.
Like Adam's on the call, but I don't see Joe.
I'm here, but I don't want to specifically say which machines were configured with playbooks and which ones were set up by hand, because I don't know that. Joe would know better than me.
Okay. All right, so that's something that Stuart, if you can reach out to Joe directly then and try and move this forward. That's blocking, sounds like, all of our X builds at this point.
Yep, it will be.
Thank you. So this list is fairly long at this point, and I don't know that we have all the representatives of the various teams on to opponents on to talk about the status of these issues and anything that has to move. Does anyone have a strong opinion on whether it's worth doing a run through of this list?
Probably not. I know that there's a JIT fix that looks like it's almost ready to go in. That's going to take 4 things out of this list. We could make a call on the JEP 358. We're not going to put that in. We could pull it out of this list.
I think at this point we've missed the window to try to put that in. We'll have to see if we can get it a sort of optional feature controlled under a command line option. It's something that we can leave out and still be and still have all the required Java features. So I think, given the time frame, it has not made the release.
Makes sense. Likewise, I think anything that's in this list that doesn't have a fix that's ready to go in today or tomorrow should move out.
Yeah, the one he said I think we do need to get in is the update the lookup specific code against the JDK 14 spec. And so I've been reviewing that with the spec in hand, but it's slow process because as we found when implementing this, the spec is not always entirely clear here. And so hopefully I'll have those review comments in today, but it may take us a day or two to get this merged in, and I think it is required.
Okay. But that might not go until next week, sounds like.
Yeah, given where we're at.
So I can take a look through the others. There might be one other one that has a fix that's under review, so we can see the status offline.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Peter, that would be great if you could take that to pass through. And the same for anyone else who owns any of these issues, to take a pass through and see what, anything else that should be moved out. And anything else that people need help with to complete the investigation on, that we can get these resolved. All right, then we will jump back to the agenda. Given that we are March 3rd and we haven't done the milestone 2 build yet, does that make sense to delay it until early next week? Or at this point, is there no value in a milestone 2 build?
Oh, I still think we should do a milestone 2 build to find any issues that are come out otherwise, and when we try to do the GA.
Okay. I guess then, do we want to try and target the 9th for that, or the 10th? How late do you want to push that build?
Do the testing on the weekend, so it would be nice to tag something on the weekend, but then it may not include the fix you were talking about that needs to go in.
All right, I will coordinate with Chang and see if we can get that that merged in this before the weekend. Is there anything else on the JDK 14 release that we want to discuss at this point? All right. Then I guess we'll move on to the general adopt update. Shelley, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll just take it.
Before we get into that, can I
Yep.
just remind everyone that the split for the next release 020 is going to be this weekend as well? I'm going to says February 9th in the minutes. I'm going to change that to the 8th because we usually tag the build from the weekend testing, which happens on, will be the Sunday night build that we tag.
Thanks, Pete. Okay, Shelley, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, just wanted to very quickly say I've re-enabled the JDK 11 and 14 J9 testing that was disabled over the weekend due to the OpenJ9 issue that was causing lots of core files to get created and our test artifacts bloated up and Jenkins server ran out of space and went down. So thanks for getting that resolved quickly. It will prompt us to accelerate us to move some of those artifacts off of the Jenkins server so we don't hit that same type of problem in the future. And I'll put a link to that issue in the minutes shortly. Anything of note here? We have an Aquavit meeting directly after this call that will run through some of this. May be interesting to some folks that we have a GitHub action now that is ready for beta testing on Aqua, where you can run all of the Aqua tests. So that includes the functional set that is used often in PR testing in OpenJ9. You can run that from a workflow file in your GitHub repo. So we'll be augmenting that going forward to make it more useful for OpenJ9 developers. But for now, we just want to get the initial one out and people starting to use it. Probably Stuart, if he's on the call, could mention a few of the things related to the RISC-V, some of the progress there.
Yeah, we've been sort of working to try and get RISC-V stuff integrated. We've got a separate Jenkins job that is able to build the RISC-V code base from where the repository that's currently in, and we're looking to integrate that into the main pipelines so that once the code has been merged, we can build that. We have had a virtualized system that in theory can run the tests once the builds are working properly as well. So yeah, good progress on that. I'm not sure what the plans are for actually getting that integrated into the main code base. Yeah, it's looking good. Do we have any sort of timeline for when it's likely to be integrated?
Is the work that Cheng's doing completed, Dan?
Cheng is working through reviews on those changes, and they're getting merged in sort of as we go. I believe there's only one or two left at this point that need to get merged in to get us a build without a JIT.
Okay.
So Cheng's been focused on a bunch of the Java 14 work, so as Java 14 ramps down, hopefully he can cycle back to it.
Okay, so it might be a few more weeks yet.
Hopefully not that long, but
okay.
Yeah, I didn't have anything else I was going to highlight today for the.
Thanks, Shelley. Adam, do you want to take us through the infrastructure update?
Hear me?
Yes, we can.
So there's an issue we're seeing with the new Red Hat 7 machines. They seem to be restarting during compiles. I think Opt has been seeing the same issue.
Oh, this is the new Maris 7.7 ones, yeah?
We think he knocked over a little baby. So it was like a little toddler. Obviously bounced up, took the kid out, and they were like, okay, I can't have the dog.
Yeah, that's right. That I've been working on the Artifactory changes to get the second Artifactory set up at B. A few issues with that solution, so we're trying to figure something out. Other than that, too much stuff. There's questions.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Don't see Sue. So in terms of a website review, I know that We've taken a look at some of the pages that have been updated to the newer form. The layouts and the design looks really good. I know there's some work that still needs to be done on the wording and the content on those pages. So hopefully we'll be able to get that updated and bring the new site for review here in the near future. I don't have an exact timeline on that. Is there any other business that people want to bring up today? All right, then. Thank you, everyone, and we'll have our next call.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.